Hi, everybody. So, for those of you that don't know the show 90 Day Fiance, I'm going to be talking about a cast member that was on there and a storyline. And I'm going to talk about the storyline, and then I'm going to talk about some personal stuff to do with the cast member. This is not a tea thing. Um, there is a cast member named Alina Kasha, and she's from Russia. She is a person with a disability and also a little person. I am someone who has a disability. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm not, technically, I'm not a little person, but she and I share some physical issues in that my medical condition did cause stunted growth. It did cause deformities to my hands. It did cause deformities like slight on my feet. Just stunted growth. It's just all sorts of fun stuff like that. Um, and it has rendered me permanently to a wheelchair. And so, seeing that this show was now going to feature somebody with similar issues, someone just representing the disabled community in general, uh, was pretty thrilling to me because I have seen people with disabilities represented that when they're in a love story, um, maybe there's someone that their body is still, like, maybe they were an accident victim, and so their body is still shaped traditionally perfect, whatever however you want to say, but not like me. And uh, it, but usually people with disabilities are not sexualized in TV and in movies. They're either fetishized or they're asexual, but it's rare to be sexualized. So you're not seen as uh, the girl that the guy wants to be with, and you're so beautiful. Like, that's not usually, like how some people are not cast as the leading man or the leading woman. It's the same thing. So that's why in a way this was huge, and a lot of people in the disabled community and a lot of people in the little people community were very excited about this representation. It's like, oh my god, great, this show has been bringing on people from all different backgrounds, and now they're bringing someone from the disabled community. Yes, good. And it was a pretty honest, they were pretty honest about how disability affects a relationship. Now, for people with disabilities, are we tired of that narrative? Like, okay, we know already. Like, we know there can be some issues. Is that the story that you're always going to tell? But since we have not been shown enough, you got to start somewhere, because there's still so much educating that has to go on to help normalize us as a group into the rest of society, integrate us in, where no one will think twice if they see someone's husband or wife has a disability on TV. They'll be like, oh yeah, that's Harry. It needs to become a normal thing. So it has to start with this narrative. Just like if there was back in the day, if there was a storyline featuring someone who was black or someone who was gay or someone who was Asian, somehow the struggle of them being just themselves had to come into the storyline. So it's our turn. And that's just how it is. And in a way, that's fine, because the problem when you come from a certain community is everyone wants to take a brush of who they are and just paint you with that brush and go, okay, so you're just like me, exactly like me. Let me just get rid of all the stuff that makes you different than I am, because I don't want to even learn about that. Equality is great. Don't get me wrong. But equality doesn't mean that the things that make you unique and different shouldn't be included as well. So when people go, oh, I don't see color. Well, you do. I mean, unless you're colorblind, but yeah, I mean, everyone does. Doesn't mean you treat someone like the color they are, the religion they are, their physical abilities, whatever. Do you treat them as that first, or is that secondary to them as a person? That's the difference there. Do you appreciate the things about them that make them different? You know, Now, do you make that the subject every time you get together with them? I mean, unless you both love talking about sociology, about culture, about religion. I mean, no, you shouldn't be just hitting up a subject like, so that wheelchair, I bet that goes really fast and it's amazing, the speed it has. This should not be a subject every time someone's hanging out with me, though that does happen. So, telling the story of the struggles of a new relationship where it's an able-bodied person getting together with someone with a disability and the struggles therein, sure. Could this be something where there's going to be a happy ending and we go for the ride and see the bumps in the journey and how they overcome it? I mean, that's the hope, obviously. So they didn't hold back on the fact that they had been talking for 13 years. On Zoom, on whatever was pre-Zoom, probably Skype. And, they started to realize they felt for each other more than just friends. And then it got to a point that they were like, and we need to meet in person and, we want to see where this relationship goes. And so we get to see them meet for the first time. He is super tall and she is, I don't know if she's 3 feet, but there is a big height difference between them. And of course you see that his initial reaction is like, yeah, I gotta get used to this. For me, does it make me feel a certain way? Yes, but I also understand it. To be fair, I understand because, as a filmmaker, I see headshots all the time. And you're like, okay, great. Like, when I see the headshots of an actor, and then I do a casting and someone different looking walks in the door, it takes you a minute to process, okay, so you're this. I was expecting this, but you're different. And that's the thing is most people don't look exactly like the image. There's always going to be something different. Even if they look as close to that picture as possible, there's still going to be something that is different when someone is in person versus on camera. It will always be that way. The camera reads people differently than our eyes read people. There's some subtleties there, but some people look much better on camera. Some people look worse on camera. Some people, it's just, you can't quite, some people look taller. Some people look shorter. There's just something that looks different than when you see them in person. So it's very hard to have a relationship and then meet in person and think everything is going to be the same. No, there's a whole different relationship when something's in person. So now you add something like disability and differences, especially differences in height, differences in ability. There's a little bit of a learning curve that will happen for both people. Now, being this is his first time with a person that has a disability and a little person, more learning curve for him, less for her. She's dated plenty of other people before. So they go through showing the ups and the downs of this, and they do get together. And spoiler alert, I'm going to spoil it for you in case you haven't heard. So you can switch off right now and go watch it quick and come back. In the end, unfortunately, as much as he really cares about her, and I felt like he did care about her, and I did feel like she cared about him. She wanted to, after their few weeks together, have an answer as to, is this going somewhere and can we be exclusive? And he was like, oh, I need more time to figure this out. Now, I agree with both. I disagree with both. That's the thing. In the end, he was like, well, if I have to give you the answer right now, then at this moment, I would say no. This is not going to work then if I'm not given more time to just see how things progress. Now, have I been through that? I mean, I haven't online dated for 13 years, but I did. I have done online dating. There was someone I spoke to for 9 months, and back at that point, there was no video chatting, so it was just on the phone and texting and chatting on AOL and stuff like that. And then, of course, you meet in person, and things feel different, and there's some learning curves, and still together. It's 22 years later. Have I had people that can handle the wheelchair? Have I had people that cannot? Yes, I've had both. And some people really think they can handle what comes with a person, whether it's disability, illness, they've got children, they've got a crazy family, whatever it is, their job, they're an obstetrician. They're going to leave in the middle of the night because a baby needs to be born. They're a musician. They're going to be up all night practicing and not in the bed sleeping with you, and they're going to be sleeping all day. Whatever it is, everybody comes with something that either the other person can deal with or they cannot. And a lot of people initially go, oh yeah, your stuff? Yeah, I think I'll be fine, until you get into the reality of it. Now, is it fair to say to someone, well, I can't handle dating you because of your disability? I mean, that's always a big ouch. How does that not hurt? And how do you say that without being insensitive? It's an insensitive thing to say. And how do you say it sensitively? Should you not tell the person this? Should you go, no, seriously, it's just, we don't live close to one another. I mean, I definitely had a situation where someone was like, I thought I could deal with this kind of stuff, and basically said the same stuff he said. It's not you, it's me. You deserve to have someone with you that wants to help with all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but you're helping more than I need. And sometimes, like, if I'm in my home, I need less help than I need out. But you keep really trying to help me more than I actually want. Like, we have to figure this out. And then I had someone else and that one worked out really well. But I had someone else that they really wanted life to be focused on them. They wanted to be weighted on hand and foot. They thought that I wasn't going to require as much assistance when need be that I do. But I also don't need as much as, everyone. I've known, let's put it this way. Disability aside, I have known plenty of people that are able-bodied that seem to need more help than a person with a disability, because they just want to be waited on and catered to. So again, is that person worth doing that for? Technically, they can do this stuff themselves. It's, do you find whoever you're involved with worth everything that comes with them? And it doesn't mean that there aren't going to be struggles with whatever comes with them. I was a single mom, 2 kids. Sometimes that was the bigger deal than the disability. They were like, I don't know if I want to be a father to your kids. I'm like, I didn't say I was looking for a father for my kids. That's done. That's taken care of. I don't need you to do that. But that was a deal breaker for some people the second they would hear that the children, that was their big problem. Am I to say, okay, that's wrong? No. I think we all have something that we feel might be more on, if you were to take the resume of the person that you're going to get set up with and look at it, there's stuff you're going to go, oh, great, great. Oh, no, 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 no. So, and until you get together with someone and see if you connect, and then things fall into place, then whether for better or for worse works for you with this person. So in their case, I don't know. I feel like more time would have been better to figure that one out. I do also understand that she was probably like, look, we don't know when these shows are put together, there's a lot that you don't see that is not edited in. It's not that it's edited out, it's just not edited in, because that's hard to take that huge volume of information when you're just trying to get to one story point to the next. And I don't know for fact, but I would be surprised if there weren't a lot of things said before this trip that could have led her to believe that there was something more here than actually happened when they got in person. But that's the truth of, when you get together in person, it is just different. It's like starting again. It really is. So Did she come in with expectations? Who didn't come in there with expectations? Who doesn't come into something like that with them? Should it have been given longer? Well, there might be a culture clash in this. I know plenty of people from Russia, and I will tell you that from what I've been told and what I've seen, definitely there's a difference in the approach to dating. It is more that you're trying to get together for the thought of being together, as opposed to let's just enjoy this and see what happens. So a rush to make a commitment is going to be higher on the chain, and maybe that was the situation. Now, I don't know if the younger Russian generation is different. This I cannot speak to, but it did remind me of some situations I've seen with friends of mine where there was that exact culture clash. That one just seemed to be in this big rush. I myself was dating a guy that, now it wasn't Russia, it was Romania, but there's definitely a similarity in certain cultural aspects of dating, where, yeah, there was a lot of pressure for this to head towards marriage, and we barely knew one another. He was a very sweet guy, but definitely our heads were in two different directions on the approach to the whole thing. And I feel like that might have been what was happening there. A lot of people were like, oh, well, she's being really pushy. Maybe she's being really pushy. Oh, no, I'm not there. I'm not each of them. But it did kind of read like there was a culture clash thing, and maybe there were expectations before coming there, because just the fact that he was like, oh, the height difference and this and that, he went with certain expectations, which I'm not a believer in having expectations per se. You get an idea of what you think is going to happen, but I think when you have an expectation about anything and then it doesn't work out the way you thought it did, you've set yourself up for disappointment. And this is where I lovingly joke that I appropriate the Danish, and I don't mean I'm really appropriating anyone, but in Danish culture, they're considered statistically the happiest people on earth because they have low to no expectations, culturally speaking. So it's like, why would you think something is going to go well? It's going to go until it goes either well or not well. And if it goes well, you're happy. And if it didn't go well, you weren't expecting it to anyway. So you didn't set yourself up for a big letdown. And when I heard that changed everything in my life. I was like, I am not going to stress over stuff, because especially with my illness and my disability, there's just too many monkey wrenches there that it's like, no, I'm just going to go with the flow on things. And if things go well, I'm going to be happy about them, but I'm not going to set myself constantly for disappointment. And especially if it's a dating situation, really, you do yourselves a lot of favors when you're meeting people that you don't expect them to treat you any which way. You know how you deserve to be treated. Now, that's a different thing. If I notice people are not treating me the way I deserve to be treated, well, we're not going to date very long, are we? Like, that's not, no, I'm not going to put up with that. So I do feel like the possibility of a culture clash was going on there. Now, they end up breaking up. And of course, I was disappointed because of the representation. It's like, I wish the example of working through that was there. I mean, it just is what it is. But is there going to be another person with a disability on the show? When are they going to be on the show? When will this happen? Because when you see someone come onto a show like that, you hope it rides out a little bit longer so that you can have the representation there longer, and not go, oh, well, now we're back to nobody is there. Now, unfortunately, what sort of determined this in part, Alina, not on the show, but in real life, said some stuff that she should not have said on social media. She had some use of the N-word and a few other things. And the N-word is never okay. It is just, it's not okay. It is not, like, for example, it is not my word to say. It is not my word to just, the only people that can choose whether or not they are allowed to say it is anyone from the Black community, because it is the word that they suffered under. It is the word that they have taken and it tried to take back power for themselves. It's just like in the disabled community, there are words that are really super offensive, like the word crippled. It's very offensive. It's very hurtful. I don't like when I hear it. It really bothers me a lot. But there are people in the disabled community that also think it's fun to say. They don't think there's any problem with it. And I'm not going to tell them that they can't feel that way. Communities are always divided on how they feel about a subject that pertains to them, and that's okay. What hurts one person doesn't hurt another person, and there's many reasons behind that. But I know for anyone outside of that community is not a word for them to be saying. It is something that when people say it to me, either they have called me that, they have made jokes about that word, it does bother me, and I would really prefer they don't say it. I can't, police them, but I can, when they are around me, say, hey, maybe not. And then sometimes they say nothing. It just really depends on the situation. It depends. Like if they were to, say to me, oh, you cripple freak. Well, believe me, I'm saying something that nobody's going to get away with that. But if they are talking about a South Park episode with a cripple fight, I mean, is that the time I'm going to make a big deal? Probably not. But do I find ways to make sure that if I'm going to bring these things up, I'm being diplomatic and educational about it? Because if you get someone's back up, they're not going to learn, and we've all been in that position. So she said these words that are not for her to say. Did she call anyone? Did she say, you are a blank? No, it was not like that, which that's really bad. But she was still trying to make jokes and have fun and say, and it's still no. Again, newspaper on the nose. This is not for you to say. You may not say these words. Now, is the fact that she comes from a different country mean that she doesn't understand that she can't say these words? I mean, I won't speak about her, but in general, are there people that are not from America, that didn't grow up here, maybe they visited here, whatever, that don't really understand the impact of the word? Obviously there are. Are there people that know logically that it's a bad word, but they don't really get the depth of it? They don't get what the racism in this country is? Yes. When I was little, I lived in South Africa for 4 years during apartheid. Unless you were there, you don't actually get it. Like, it was bad. So if you're not from here, you're not gonna get it to the same degree, especially if it's not happened to you directly. I mean, how many people that are here do not get it? So is it possible that she didn't? Sure. I know a lot of people I've known from Russia. There is a difference in how they understand the racism over here and some of the stuff. And I found myself sometimes having to explain some of it and go, well, no. This is why this. And they're like, oh, okay. Because they don't have any Black people over there for the most part. Their racial issues are different than ours. So if you're bringing your perspective to a new place, you may not understand how serious something is. Now, at the end of the day, if you are told when you travel to any country, you get that list from it's usually a list for diplomats and travelers of these are the things to do and not do when you're in this country so you don't go to jail, you don't offend people, nobody beats you up in the street. Well, the N-word would be on that list for here. So at the end of the day, you should in theory know that you should not be saying it. You should not be writing it. I know that she changed the spelling of it. Maybe Maybe she thought, just like how some people will go, oh, well, da 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 da, the N word, da 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 da. Maybe she thought by changing the G's to Q's and not using the ER and just an A was the equivalent of saying N word. It's not. Would you understand that if you're from here? And if you're here, would you understand that? I don't know. I'm not every single person on the earth. But are there people that would not understand that? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, if you are coming to a country, whether it's physically in person or through the internet, you should try your very best that when they say, whoever they are, there are certain words and terms you should not be using. And especially if you're going to be a public figure, you should try your best to research, what should I not be saying? Like if my tio from Brazil came over here, or I went over there, either way, and tried to ask me, do you want me to get you blah, blah, blah? Do you want me to get this amazing flan? And I was like, yeah. And I can't quite do it right with my hands, but the okay symbol. Yeah, first of all, I might get smacked in the face for that. But over there, this would be a major problem if I did that, because that means a-hole. So I would just be telling my tio that he's an a-hole if I was to do that. But being that I'm aware that is what that means over there, I would not do it. Now, when I very first heard about that, I was like, are you serious? Like, it really means that? And it took a moment to kick in. I mean, I never attempted to prove anyone right or wrong with it. But I remember thinking, wait, really? That? But it just means no, it doesn't matter what it means to you. It means something different to someone else, whatever it is. So I do feel that TLC bears some responsibility here. And I know you're going, no, it's her. It's her. She has, yeah, I understand that. I agree. But when it comes to, she was hired to be on a show, which made her platform on social media that much bigger, giving a bigger audience and more people to see and hear whatever it is she's doing. When these companies bring people onto shows, they are in theory supposed to. They actually are supposed to vet people. TLC does not put as much funding into that aspect of things. They're not doing a big social media search to figure out, is there anything we got to worry about? Is there anything that's going to be a public relations nightmare? Because whenever they do any of these shows, and I have some experience when it comes to reality television, so I do have some inside knowledge on how things work. When they're going to hire people, they are supposed to look into their background. To what degree is up to the individual place, but the reason they want to do it is you're going to hire people on that basically represent you. And this company, they're putting money into that. And when they put the money into that, if some controversy blows up, and then you have to go re-edit a show, take shows down, what are you putting up there? You have to try and not lose an audience. Oh, this costs a lot more money. This can make you lose an audience. This can get people sued. There's a whole bunch that comes with it. So you would think that they would do a better job of researching the people that they are casting. Clearly not. I'm not saying they shouldn't have cast her. In many ways, I thought she was interesting and great. What they should have done, because all of them have, just anybody that is on TV, they've got some skeletons. All of them do. You're not going to get away from that. The reason they want to investigate these things is so that they can, number one, decide, is this person worth bringing on? Is what's coming with them going to be more trouble than it's worth? Or do we go to the next one and use them and not this one? That's number one. Number two is, okay, they've got some stuff. How, is this stuff that's manageable? Let's try to talk to them about this stuff. Is some of this stuff, as much as it's bad publicity, the kind of bad publicity that's good publicity? They're a hot mess and we want them to be that way, because they do get messy people. I mean, that's the point of reality TV. You want people that drama follows them. That's what you want. They are far easier to work with when it comes to, let me rephrase, not easier to work with, but easier to get story out of. Because the way the networks do things is they they want people that have an authenticity to whatever their situation is, and you hope that that's what you're actually getting when you're casting for that. Are the people that get on there and just say a bunch of made up stuff to get on Jerry Springer or whatnot? Yes, absolutely, that happens. And the same can happen here. And that's part of what they're supposed to investigate. If they say, oh, this is my husband and I and our 5 kids, they're supposed to check out, is this your husband and are these your 5 kids? Like, is this true? Because that's, if the story is about this family and whatever makes them unique, well, you want to make sure the story can still keep giving information, because otherwise it turns into a work of fiction. And I'm not saying there isn't some fiction that's going on here, but the base of it has to be real. The base of the situations have to be real. Now, if it's, oh, we took the kids to, the fire station to see the fire truck today, and that's, what we went to do. No, that's set up. We all know that. Now, is some stuff that goes down there, the kids break into a fight or mom and dad start fighting or whatever. That's not necessarily made up. That's something that may have occurred when they're there, because that's just what happens wherever they go. There's just all these situations. And so that's part of where they're trying to figure out who you are so that you can make fun, exciting, nonstop, dramatic TV. That's what they're trying to do in the casting process. And part of the looking into who you are when they're investigating you is part and parcel to that as well, but also to try and see, are you a PR nightmare, or are you the kind of PR drama that is good for the show? And then if there's some PR nightmare stuff in there, is it the kind of stuff that you could talk to that person and go, so this stuff with the N-word, we need you to understand, blah, 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 blah. They educate the person and whatnot. They're like, oh my God, I had no idea. Okay, I'm going to delete those posts. I will never say that stuff. I had no idea. Okay. Because the thing is, are people beyond rehabilitation? No, I mean, you have that guy who was like a Nazi and going around recruiting people, and he now is giving TED Talks on how he's trying to get people to leave those organizations and see like what went wrong where and why people end up joining such organizations. So should people be redeemed? Yeah, I mean, if you put in the work and you're sincere, should you be punished forever? Not if you learn and change your ways. When your child does something wrong, do you put them in the corner forever? Or do you want them, is the goal for them to learn a lesson and not repeat whatever the offending thing was? Like, which is it? Or is it just for the sadistic power of punishing them and not allowing them to do anything? Because that doesn't seem very much, it doesn't seem useful. It doesn't seem productive. I mean, there are some people that need to be canceled. Believe me, there are some people that nothing's ever going to happen, and someone that needs to go to jail, whatever the situation is, where there's no, or they shouldn't be in a certain field or whatever because they're just abusing that field. Sure, do those people exist? Absolutely. They're not being responsible to those around them and their effect. But should we not give chances to people? It's all in. You took the cookies. You shouldn't be taking the cookies before dinner. Do you understand why? Are you going to do it again? No, I'm not going to do it again. And then they don't do it again. Sure, right. Or maybe they are more respectful and come and ask instead of stealing the cookies and go, well, I really want the cookies. Could I have a cookie before dinner? And it's like, okay, we're getting somewhere. You're asking me instead of just taking the cookies, because you're trying to teach a lesson and you're trying to help this person to grow as a human being. Should that just be in childhood? I don't think so. I mean, but that's why prisons are overloaded, because there is, just shove people away. People on TV that make huge mistakes, should some of them be canceled? Absolutely. Absolutely. Are some of them being canceled when they shouldn't be? Yeah, unfortunately, if you have the possibility to cancel people, the possibility exists that some people that shouldn't have been canceled are going to get canceled instead of suffering consequences and learning and growing and coming back. And we see that journey, and we all learn something as well. Obviously, that's going to exist. What's the case with Lena? Who am I to say? It was wrong. Wrong to say the N word. Did she know better? I'm not her. I don't know. But I do feel that if TLC is going to bring people on that are not from America, and even that are from America, there should be a set of PR rules that, just like they have in their contracts, of the things you're allowed to do and not do. So when people were upset, oh, Alina didn't speak up right away and say anything right away. Well, I will tell you right now, the way that works is the PR gods at TLC, once this thing broke loose, were like, do not say a word, say nothing. We will tell you when you are allowed to say something. That is what happens with all of them, because they have this really, they have a big contract filled with lots of consequences to them. Some of it is if they spill stuff, they're, charged a bunch of money. I mean, a severe amount of money. There's just all different ways they can get sued. So it's not worth it to do certain things. And there are moral clauses in these contracts. There's things that you can do online and you can't do online. So this is where they should have given the list of rules of what you can do and what you can't do. This is why they should have looked into her social media posts and gone, okay, she's done some stuff like this. Let's talk. Let's figure out if you're the type of person that wants to learn and grow and not keep ignorant behavior, then there's something to work with here. If there's nothing to work with because you're like, no, it's freedom of speech, I can say the N-word if I want to, move on to the next person and see if they're, the right person or the right fit for your TV show. So yeah, TLC should have done that, because with a lot of companies, they will sit there and sort of give you, the manners class, like Miss Manners class of what you should be doing and what you should not be doing. They give you some kind of social media education, and a lot of them also, they actually get involved in your social media. The more popular you are, they get your password and your username. They are the ones that are putting the posts up. You send them what you want to post, and then they look it over and go, should we post it? Should we not post it? And you may not be able to be in charge of that when you represent the show, because at that point your social media represents this show. So you don't have final say over your social media anymore, because you're not you. You are a public figure, and you are a public figure that represents this brand, and the brand wants to protect itself. TLC does not seem to be doing the best job of this, and I do feel they should have investigated everybody, but especially somebody that they are putting into this progressive role, going, hey, we want to change how people look at stuff. We had the first gay couple, and again, that means something to people, because you're representing a whole group of people. And when it doesn't work out, you're really hurting people on a bigger level than you realize. So the fact that she was fired, okay, sure. There are going to be justifiable reasons for firing her. Okay. Maybe there was something in the, aside from the morality of whether you feel you could say the N-word or not, or maybe there was stuff in the contract that if you use the N-word, that's it, you're off. Whatever the reason that equals that she should have been fired. The problem is, now you took someone that represented so much for millions of people, because the disabled community is enormous, more than you realize. And now all of those people are like, but wait, where's our representation? So that's why the responsibility of how you pick who's going to be on there is really important, because if that person is infallible, to what degree, and who is it hurting? Is it just you're the easily replaceable blonde, or are you more than just a certain set of, certain description, and that's it, you're just swapping it out? Or is there something about you that represents, the change that needs to be made, and now that goes away with it? The trying to normalize someone with a disability just went away with her getting fired. And I'm not saying that she should be fired or should not be fired. I'm literally not saying that. I'm saying that if TLC wanted to prevent hurting the community they were trying to help, and also just the education that they were trying to bring to everyone to normalize something, that beginning step equaled hurting people. And that's why how you begin a film project of any kind, a TV show, whatever it is, how you begin it matters. I mean, that's in the producing. Whether it's an independent film, reality TV, whatever, big Hollywood blockbuster, the producing aspect of it in the beginning is really important, how that is handled, because that can cause huge, huge problems in the end that were preventable from the beginning. Now, the backlash to her saying the N-word, I totally understand why people are upset. Why would they not be upset? I understand that. I also understand that people feel a variety of different ways. I'm not everybody. I can't tell anyone how to feel. But what I can say that's wrong here is before this happened, there was a lot of cruel talk towards her, a lot of prejudice statements about her, just making fun of her disability and making fun of the deformities and the stuff that classically happens with people like us. That was going on already. People going, oh, we don't really need to see her in bed with him. Like, who needs to see that? No, we need to see that so it can be normalized. Because that's what they used to say about gay people, about people of color. That, like, this is all the same stuff that's always been said, that no one needs to see that. We don't need to. So yes, we do, to get used to it and not think of it in a negative way, because it's not. She's a beautiful girl. He's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. What's the problem? So yes, this should have happened. People should not be responding to her the way they do, but they are part of the reason that having someone like her on the show was really important. But then when the controversy hit, people that were outraged by her use of the N-word or any of the other things, and I'm not going to get into everything she said, but they felt she was a person that was discriminating. And okay, if that is true, I don't know if that's in her heart or she was just stupidly saying some stuff. Whatever it is, these things were said, they were typed. So people have a right to feel the way they do, obviously. But do they have the right in how they respond? Like, should their response be with another form of prejudice? Because that's exactly what was happening. I saw YouTubers going, oh, well, Alina, why don't you hobble over to your computer and do some research on the N-word? Or you and your twisted feet, and you're there's a lot of, I've been called a twisted freak before. I don't much like it. I think it's pretty cruel, and I don't understand why and what it has to do. Like, what is the relevance of this? So basically, the thing you're mad at her for doing is now the punishment you're giving her, which means that is something that you would do to other people. It means you feel that way, because just like you're saying, well, if she used the N-word, she must be racist. Well, then you're ableist, obviously. Now, is she racist? I don't know if she's racist, but is she ignorant? If you're saying racist stuff, you're definitely, at minimum, ignorant. If you're told, ooh, you're not supposed to say these things, this is what it actually means, and you go, oh, shoot, I didn't realize, I'm not going to say that again. Okay. But if you continue and you're like, no, and if you hate people and you direct that at them, no, you're racist at that point. So if you're doing that stuff to her, that's just as wrong as being someone who is actively, happily being a racist, being someone who discriminates against someone that's hating someone, especially for something they can't help about themselves. I mean, hate people's actions, but who they are, just how they're born, what they look like, why I don't understand why that is a crime. Why is being disabled a crime? Why is having a deformity or an illness or being black or whatever it is that's visual, why is that a crime? I understand, like, if you put blackface on, that is a crime. And I don't mean like that is something you should not. No, that's bad. But just looking how you naturally do, why would you pick on someone over those things? Why would you go out of your way to offend them? Why would you say they shouldn't be seen because of how they look? There's something disturbing there. And it's beyond pot kettle black. It's beyond it. It's almost like the people that have a lot of hate for a certain community, and maybe more communities than that, are just using it as an excuse to justify being able to say some language that they shouldn't be saying, and then feel like they're justified because she did something wrong. I don't know. If she was from a different background and she said something else that was offensive by a certain group, and then you went and said, oh, you blah 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 blah, and use slurs about whatever the other background is, like, why is using a slur towards someone a punishment? And that does not make any sense to me. Making fun of their appearance, that should not be a punishment. Being a punishment, putting a punishment on someone should not be that. It should be, okay, well, you're not allowed to do certain things. You're not allowed to have certain freedoms until you learn, how to behave differently. Until you don't go trying to steal the cookies before dinner, you're not allowed to have the cookies. And when you learn how to be responsible and respectful and not do things behind one's back, you have to earn this privilege to be able to have the cookies. Now, no one should be earning to say slurs. But should you earn being in a good light with your audience? If you could prove that you've learned something and you're never going to do it again, sure, why not? I mean, people make mistakes all the time. But the punishment should not be, throwing slurs back at them and making fun of that person based on what they look like, and especially with something like disability. I mean, what the heck? Like, that just has never made logical sense to me, why that's the butt of a joke, why that's something that's okay to say to somebody, because nobody would like it. If it was them, they wouldn't. They absolutely wouldn't. And people are like, oh, it's good that her and Caleb broke up. He got out of a situation he shouldn't be in. Well, you know what? There might be a whole lot more to it, that disability isn't the thing. Because at the end of the day, can you handle what comes with that person? Can you deal with better or for worse? How many people really honor for better or for worse? Think about it. How many people that have gotten together in a committed relationship, and when everything just is not what they expected it to be, like some horrible thing happens, the relationship sometimes gets trashed by handling that reality, and they thought they could handle it, they didn't. It doesn't mean that they never loved each other. So to say that he didn't have feelings for her and she didn't have feelings for him, I'm sure they did. They were talking for 13 years. Is it right that he should not want to be with her because of her disability? You know what? If he can't handle it, then that's not fair to both of them. Should he have been given a chance to see if he was maybe wrong about that? I mean, that's up to her. It depends what you feel about someone. But under those circumstances, I wouldn't have made it exclusive because I'd want to know, and this is me speaking about me, I'd want to know, prove yourself and whether or not this journey works for you. Does your mind change? Do you suddenly discover it's not what you think on just 2 weeks? I mean, 2 weeks is a crash course. Anything in 2 weeks is extreme, and so do I feel like they should have, given it a little bit more of a chance? Sure. I don't think exclusivity should have been entering that picture. But that's me. That's what I would do for me. But is there more to the story than we are aware of as an audience? And why she was saying that? Possibly. Like I said, there's stuff they don't edit in because there's not time for it. So you don't have the context of why these two people are together, breaking up, having a fight, whatever it is. There's always some missing pieces for the audience, and you're just judging on the little bit of information that you've gotten. And that always makes it difficult to judge a situation. But when it comes to, where this whole thing got left off for the disabled community and an example on a TV show, it's like, oh, like it's gone. Oh, well, hopefully TLC does do this again and brings on someone with a disability, a physical disability. I know some people were like, but Lauren, she was disabled because she has Tourette's. Different disability. This was about physical disabilities. And yes, very important that she was on there, represents. Absolutely. I'm not taking anything away from there. But that is a different disability. There are disabilities that are invisible. There are disabilities that are very visible. And when it comes to physical, visible disabilities, that is a category that has not been on there and needs to be everywhere because we are everywhere. Everywhere. Look up the statistics. There's a lot. There's like tens of thousands, 100,000, there's a lot of people with disabilities in America. Like, yeah, it's the numbers up there. And the thing is that disability does not discriminate. Anyone is welcome to join. They may not be willing to join, but they might be, enlisted whether they like it or not. You get drafted into it, and then the numbers increase. So, unfortunately, it is what it is. So, all the more reason that representation needs to be there, even if it was not many of us. But this is a huge part of the world. So, yes, the representation needs to be the normalization of normal people need to be there. Everyone's normal. Everyone's different. Everyone has their thing. But a physical disability, you're still a normal person. It's always about the person first. And that story needs to be told. And I really hope that TLC does do something about casting a new couple, bringing in another story like that. Doesn't matter what kind, I could care less what disability they bring in, but some kind of physical disability would be important. And that they do the research with, look into the backgrounds, just find out what kind of skeletons are going on there, and just have the list of, I don't care what you think, but you are not allowed to say this, this, and this. Just FCC it a little bit. The FCC, when I was in radio, they had the list of words you cannot say, the list of, just like YouTube is doing now. There's certain things you can't say. And that's what, companies like TLC, they need to give a list to people like, look, when you're shooting and when you're representing us, which is you doing anything outside of the four walls of your house that involves the internet or involves you being there, this is what you're not allowed to say and do. They need to do that because otherwise, people don't know how to make judgments like that a lot of the time. They're like, yeah, it's my Instagram. What's the big deal? And then next thing, they're fired. The fans are disappointed. There's all sorts of chaos going on. And it's just about giving a guideline of, if you're going to be on this show, this is what's expected of you. That's why they have them make a contract and why this is the part that's not in the contract, but some other crazy stuff is, because there's a lot of limitations they impose on the people that are on these shows. I don't know. But I really think if those things were taken care of, it would make for so much of a better situation. And maybe there would not have been an end result like this. Who knows? But I would love to know what everyone thinks. And just to be clear, I am not supporting any use of slurs. Nope, that was bad. That was a newspaper on the nose. So just make that very clear. But I would love to hear what everyone has to think, what everyone has to say on the subject. I'm open to opinions that don't agree with me. That's fine. That's the beauty of everything, is we're all entitled to feel different ways about the same thing. And, you know, the painting of a vase, 10 different people are going to see it different ways, and that's okay. So I'd love to hear what everyone has to say. And hopefully Alina has actually learned something from this experience and will grow and learn as a human being and not repeat mistakes like that, horrible mistakes like that. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.